Been a while since I posted. Looking into a lot of the AI agent stuff, but I just uploaded this project that I worked on about a year ago, and actually had ChatGPT help me work it out since it was C++. And let's do a demo of what it does, which is open it up and I'll go over it as it's loading. Um, it's basically a camera actor that can take pictures of the 3D world. And I experimented with this in Python years ago um, with the Python plugin. You can search on my site and see that, but that code doesn't work anymore because, among other things, it used a Python plugin. So the idea is here is you have to have a, a third person. It doesn't have to be a third person project, but you would essentially create a third person project and then um, move this object into the uh, area. You can obviously move it around, and this is what it sees. So I'm just going to run the project, and it has just taken a pic. You can't see it in there. It's just taken a picture and saved it to disk. And we know this because we come over here and you can see time and date. There's the picture. Why is this important? Well, if you're doing any kind of machine learning and you don't want to, there isn't an easy way to do this from what I have found, and this has been a couple of years now. Um, so it's you might be able to get it to work on your system. That's the drawback, is that if you can't create C++ classes and compile them with 2022 Visual Studio, it's going to be tough to use this. Unfortunately, the idea is to put it out and let people play with it and add to the project and make it do more things. Like it would be nice to attach. This is a camera actor which you can move yourself or programmatically with a blueprint, or have what you'll see is a camera component that I'm starting to work on that you could potentially add to characters. So if we go into, this is a regular third person 5.5 project with C++ enabled. And basically, I'm pulling up this third person character viewport, and you can see this camera right here that says follow camera. Anyway, it'd be nice to remove this camera and add the camera that I created, and then programmatically go through as the agent is walking through the world, and it can take a picture of what it sees, and then obviously that gets sent back to an AI and things like that. Um, there are different ways you could try to do this with a first person in Python and just grab the whole screen. But this is the route I'm trying to go, which is a little bit more complicated. Um, we open up the level blueprint, and on begin play, we get this camera capture object, and then we just call save to file, save image to file. Okay. Um, I basically created a brand new third person project and added a C++ class and then I copied the code you're about to see over to that class. So to make a regular uh, BP Unreal project have C++ ability, you are going to go into, let's see, tools, add a new class, and add an actor class. Now I'm not going to do this. That's super annoying, Unreal. Um, and you would give it a name. My suggestion, if you're going to try to do all this from scratch, um, give it the same name, camera capture, replace that here so it will generate the class. Now, um, Unreal goes through all these machinations, and um, it's really confusing, and it's really hard to get everything built right. You will see this uh, camera capture solution that it creates. And then, if obviously, you have to have Visual Studio 2022 with all the game options and all kinds of things installed. And there's videos that go about doing this. So, again, I would suggest getting all of that set up. But if you don't want to do it, then maybe I can work something out to where I can, build the binaries. But the whole idea is to have other people pull this project down, get it running, make changes to it, submit the changes back to me, and then it makes my life a lot easier. See, we have this weird situation with Visual Studio and Unreal. It just doesn't seem to work. You try to build things, it just won't work. Um, as far as seamless is concerned. But I don't know why it keeps doing this. The Unreal Build tool, they really screwed things up when it comes to trying to do software development with C++ in 5.4 and beyond. And that's why I create a new project in 5.5, and then I add a C++ class, and then I get it to compile that class. Uh, One way, anyway, we'll go over the source. So basically, what we're doing is pulling in these, the capture components and the render targets. This would be called a actor, not a camera actor. The reason why I switched this over to camera actor is I will get the icons. I'll get this. I'll get all of this functionality. So you can move the camera and you can do whatever you want to do. That's why it's an A camera actor and not just a regular A actor. I always have this last, whatever this is. So you add, you'll add these in. You need a scene capture component, a texture renderer, excuse me, repeating myself. And there's a couple of simple methods here. You get tick for free and begin play for free. And I don't necessarily do anything with that. These two properties aren't being used right now. Maybe an optimization later on is to use them and initialize them. This camera is kind of weird the way this stuff works, and this is how I got it to work. Save. This is the method that the blueprint will call, and then these are the internal methods that I added to get this thing to work. All right, so we're adding some of these image wrapper. Don't necessarily use this. I was trying to do some things in post initialize that uh, I'm not using, begin play, um, using this as a variable, and I was setting it for every tick. Not every tick, it would call this code and I would know it would work. I'm leaving this right here, just a temporary. Okay, called from BP. You know, the the camera, a camera actor is this. This is a camera actor. I am passing this down with a file path to this function, and the reason why these are separate or soon to be separate has to do with the fact that this component eventually might be used to for other calls. For instance, to get the an image, but send it over TCP/IP or HTTP to a client. Right now, it's just writing to disk. So there's going to be different functions here that are going to do different things, and you're going to use it obviously the way you want to use it, which is you might have a Python program running. It makes a TCP/IP connection and extracts this data. I'm still and have always been thinking about, well, do I want this component to be an image server, which would make it much more complex. You can add plugins to Unreal to obviously do the communication, base 64 the image, send it, unbase 64 it, display it, or send it to ChatGPT, who wants it in base 64 anyway. Uh, Added this function, updates, a new texture render target. So what trying to set up is you have to have a render target um, for this to work. And you can do some of this in blueprints, but you can't do it all. Um, so set up the capture component. Obviously, there's some optimizations. Now, these two right here were things that were added, which is you don't want to capture every frame. And I had to move this code around to get this to work. Capture on movement. Well, we don't necessarily want that. We might be programmatically moving this actor all around the scene and then taking one snapshot, uh, and then the code would know to go into a certain directory to get the image file loaded. Or if you want to be more sexy, you have the oh, I want to get it from HTTP or TCP/IP. Difference is the base 64 encoding. Root component. This had caused kind of a warning in Unreal, and figured out how to turn that off here. Need some comments, obviously. Capture the screen. Okay, so this is the internal method. Save camera to file. Um, we have our render target and we have our file path. Go get the render target's resource, set the size, read the pixels, compress it. These are all things that I had to fumble around with, and then, hey, save it to the directory. So this is what everybody calls the actor. I mean, we could probably push this down here and just say a cast to this, whatever. The main tribal knowledge is learning how to get the render target and then get the scene to render to that target and then get it to write to file. So right in here, I could drag all this code down into here, but I want to try to keep things a little bit light. The other thing we're not doing is this probably needs to be a method that once it gets the pixels, it saves the image to a local, to a variable in here. So if the so you could just tell it to capture, then you figure out how you want to consume the image. Now, most of the systems today are super fast NVMe or SATA, and those things are so fast. Disk I/O is just it's not a disk. It's RAM I/O, and that is about it. So it's kind of a pain. And this isn't a plugin. This is just source code that happens to compile with the project. So I went ahead and uploaded it all here. Now, uh, GitHub kind of barfed on the idea of me having the entire Unreal project up there because it's got content and things like that, and it was just too much, so it complained. Um, how to rebuild this thing, I might go over a video of it. The first thing I would obviously do is just in 5.5, create a third person, project and make sure you can run around, you know, then add the C++ class as an actor and give it that same name, which is the camera capture actor. And then that should be, nope, not that. And then if it compiles, you'll have a camera capture actor that you can drop into the scene, and then go into the blueprint, level blueprint, get the actor, and um, call this method or do it some other way, however you want to do it. So this is I tried to leave the binaries, but it didn't do everything. It did leave upload these targets. This is super confusing to me, and it doesn't always work. So my suggestion is I'm going to get rid of that. What you do is you come in here to binaries. Okay, kill that. Just delete all these. Yeah, I know. I know, it still has to get rid of it. Windows 11. Then what you do is you come back over here, not to this solution, and it says, hey, we need to build this stuff, and you just say yes. And this seems to work. The solution will build the source code. It will build it, but it doesn't do the same thing that this is doing here. Super confusing. You'll see the cache and the intermediate show up. You'll see the saved, and this particular build target seems to work. So that's another option to get it up and running. The whole idea of this component again is to have the ability to attach it to either use it by itself or attach it to a metahuman or something, some AI character, and now you have the ability for the character to, obviously programmatically, you're going to have to call into Unreal and say, give me this picture. So if you follow the agentic AI stuff with tool calling and all of that in Python, you could literally be talking to an agent in the world and, you know, ask it, well, what do you see? and it knows that that's a tool call. It makes a Python call that, has a TCP/IP or HTTP connection to Unreal Engine to this component, and it says, hey, take a picture and send it to me. Sends it all the way back to the agent, and then you send it as a prompt up to the LLM, and then it can see the screen. Now, again, this is super, super overkill. Obviously, you could just take a snapshot in Python of the screen, but you know, this is attached to an NPC. It's not you and what you're looking at, if that makes any sense. Um, and you might have several of these cameras as eyes on NPCs, metahumans, whatever your character is. And that's not the same thing that you see as either a third or a first person character. So you can imagine right here another character that actually has this camera attached to its head, and wherever that head looks, there's that camera. So that's why I have this tighter integration. But this project, this source project, has been I did it last year, and I just said to myself, I need to get it out there. And if people want to use it and add to it and or help me understand how to get the stuff to compile right and make it much more seamless, then that would be great. If you're an end user that's like you're totally or relatively brand new to Unreal and some of this stuff, then I'd like to try to help, but I can't obviously debug it on your system. There's just a lot more that has to go on. But if you can get to the point to where you can create, um, you know, like let's say this third person example, and then add a C++ class and have it compile it, then you're definitely way ahead of the game. So, uh, been a long time. Uh, this doesn't really have to necessarily do with metahumans, but it is machine learning, and it's something I wanted to get out there, and it's something that I want to try to integrate with some of the agentic stuff that's coming out. But that's all I've been studying right now is the agent to agent and things like that. So that's all I've got for right now. If you've gotten this far, I really appreciate it.